mynews.studio.
If you look out over the North Sea, you'll see wind turbines stretching out to the horizon. Meanwhile, solar panels now cover roofs all across the Netherlands. The question is, has Europe's electric grid finally turned a corner towards being much cleaner?
Right. Today's date is February 9th, 2026. Let's get into it. The European Union just reached a milestone. Last year, wind and solar together generated more electricity than all fossil fuels combined. What actually pushed Europe to this point?
It's really a combination of necessity and policy. Europe was under real pressure. Energy insecurity after Russia's gas threats, spending 32 billion euros on gas imports just last year, and that's a 16% increase from the year before. Policies like the European Green Deal and Repower EU forced everyone to ask, how do you cut back on imports, keep prices from spiking, and still hit climate targets?
The numbers are pretty telling. Coal used to make up a quarter of Europe's electricity. Now it's below 10%. Solar jumped 20% in just 1 year, up to 369 terawatt-hours, which is about what 3 French nuclear plants produce. But how did wind and solar grow so much faster than fossil fuels?
Scale and investment played a big role. 10 European countries have pledged 9.5 billion euros to build 100 gigawatts of wind in the North Sea by 2050. That's enough for 143 million homes. But it's not only about building more. Even though new solar installations slowed down, actual electricity generation went up, thanks to better technology, more sunny hours, and smarter electricity grids.
The grid part is interesting. Renewables aren't always predictable. How did the EU make sure the lights stayed on without having to fall back on gas or coal?
Batteries and upgrades to the grid. In 2025 alone, Europe doubled its battery installations, 10 gigawatts now, compared to just half that in 2023. These batteries store cheap solar electricity during the day and release it in the evening, when demand peaks. For instance, Italy now covers 20% of its evening peak demand with batteries. This has helped keep prices from spiking the way they used to, when gas plants set the price.
So, renewables made up 30% of Europe's electricity for the first time, and fossil fuels dropped to 29%. 14 out of 27 EU countries hit this crossover point. Were there any countries that really surprised you?
Yes, a few. Even countries that have traditionally relied on coal, like Greece and Bulgaria, are now close to reaching parity with renewables. And then there are countries you might not expect. Hungary, the Netherlands, Spain, they all now get over 20% of their electricity from just wind and solar.
Let's talk about the politics for a second. Was this shift really driven by public opinion? Or did it mostly come from government policy?
Public opinion played a huge part. There was an 88% approval rate for renewables, according to a Eurobarometer survey from June 2025. After Russia invaded Ukraine, people wanted energy independence, and that gave politicians the confidence to raise targets. Repower EU, for example, increased the renewables target from 32% to 42.5% by 2030. And they sped up permits, so solar grew quickly, even in places with less sunshine, like the Netherlands.
It's not just about cutting emissions or gaining independence. There's a financial side, too. Since 2019, the Green Deal has saved the EU about 59 billion euros in fossil fuel spending. Does that mean Europe is protected from future energy crises?
Not completely protected, but much less vulnerable than before. With Russian gas set to be banned by 2027, Europe isn't as exposed to price swings or supply threats. Batteries and more connections between countries mean renewables can meet demand more reliably. And with public support staying strong, it's likely they'll keep scaling up.
What about the rest of the world? Does Europe's shift put pressure on fossil fuel exporters, or is this change mostly felt within Europe?
It's definitely global. As Europe imports less coal and gas, global prices could fall. Exporters, Russia, but also US LNG companies, are now facing smaller markets. And Europe's experience serves as an example. If they can do it at this scale and keep the grid stable, it encourages others to try. That could mean some fossil fuel projects won't get built, and more money flows into grids and batteries around the world.
Are there any weak spots? For example, if there's a year with less wind or sun, could the system struggle?
There are still risks. Renewables can be unpredictable. Bad hydro years, unusual weather patterns. But with twice as many batteries, smarter grids, and backup from neighboring countries, the risk of blackouts is much lower now. Europe's grid is actually the most interconnected in the world. And because the public and politicians are both committed, a major reversal seems unlikely.
So what's the main takeaway? Europe's hit a major milestone. Renewables now supply more electricity than fossil fuels. This isn't just about climate change. It's economics, security, and geopolitics rolled into one.
And it's a template for others. Europe's approach, mixing batteries, public support, targeted policies, and grid upgrades, shows that big economies can transition to cleaner power even under pressure.
That's it for our look at Europe's energy transition, where wind and solar have now overtaken fossil fuels on the grid. Thanks for joining us as we broke down the numbers, the politics, and what it all means.
Thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. You can try it now for free.